Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can start by sharing your screen, and I
Uh,
guess we can get started.
Perfect. Just one moment,
Yeah, no
and I'll
worries.
be ready. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that looks good. Let me put it here. Screen view, pen testing tool. That's perfect.
okay, so I may start.
Yeah, go on. Thanks,
Perfect.
Mazin.
Anytime. So thank you everyone for tuning in. So today's talk that I'll be presenting will be about using serverless for building penetration testing tools. Before we start, a little bit about me. My name is Mazin Ahmed. I am a freelancing penetration tester and information security specialist. I also founded Fullhunt, and hopefully the next generation vulnerability intelligence platform. Before that, I used to work as a security engineer at ProtonMail, and I'm a occasional bug bounty participant. In 2014, I used to be in the top 10 at Bugcrowd. I was acknowledged by Facebook, Twitter, and other companies for finding security vulnerabilities in their platforms. I'm interested in web, mobile, infra, security, in WAF evasions, software automation, DevOps. And yeah, you can reach me out at mazinahmed.net. So the agenda for this talk would be a quick introduction and the background about this research. Then we're going to talk about the providers, how we can connect serverless and pen testing. Hopefully there will be demos and the conclusions, and we're going to jump up to the questions at the end. Uh, this presentation was supposed to be an interactive one, but I don't think that we are going to make it. But so we'll try to go with the flow. All penetration testers, all red teaming operations should have an red teaming infrastructure so that they can engage and build their attacks, build their testing, and etc. And one thing that we typically do is we have a number of servers that are requires more time for maintenance, more time for building, and time for monitoring in general. It's something that is required, but also consumes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And the thing that I have been seeing with serverless, there is a huge opportunity and um, some sort of automating a lot of work that we can have in our penetration testing and having it in a way that can be novel, in my opinion. And I have been doing this in my penetration testing projects, and I can see that it's a trivial way to automate stuff. Before we start, so serverless essentially is a technology that allows us to host our applications without worrying about maintaining servers or web servers or these type of things. We just push our code to the provider, they host it for us, they deploy it for us, they configure it based on our configurations, of course. And that's it. We don't have to worry 3 months from today about issuing or renewing our certificate, or I can go on with all this, but the concept is simple. You push the app, and that's it. They take care of everything and you use it. So you can imagine serverless as a fancy word of kitchenless. It's like having a kitchen, but it's takeout. The biggest providers are Azure, GCP, and AWS, of course. And the both they all have the same functionality in different namings, but I'm talking about a different one in this research or this talk. It's the platform is called Zeet. It's a fully serverless platform. They do not provide much services. Like they're not a big provider like Azure or GCP or the AWS, but their service is quite cool. I have been experimenting it for the past year, and I can rely on them for this. So serverless and pen testing. The first research that I have seen for for serverless for implementing serverless in our penetration testing was done by MDSec in 2018, and this research it was quite good start as a start, of course. And what they have been doing, they were implementing a simple callback using serverless. So and then at the end of the research, you can find a URL that can be embedded within an image, so that when people open the URL and then it's embedded within emails. So when people open the email, we get a callback that someone opens an email. That's essentially their research, their implementation. And 2 months after the research by 2 months after the research by MDSec, RobNop released another research that is discussing how to use Zeet in different scenarios or use cases. Back then, I think it was Zeet version 1, and they supported Docker for serverless. So you can host your entire application and expose it into a certain port. It was 3000, and what's being executed within the container, you can expose it within this within a middleware app that is serving on port 3000, and you can literally have every single application you have in mind there. And it was quite cool. He showed multiple use cases, and then Zeet disabled or removed this functionality of using Docker, and now they support majorly applications, Node.js, Python, Golang, and a lot of other services, but you cannot fully customize it as it was back then. It was a cool research. I will show a couple of things that he published later. That was in November 2018. And from there, I published a tool called Xless. It's the serverless blind XSS app. This tool can be used in order to build a quick serverless application that can be triggered, a quick blind XSS application that can be triggered when exploiting blind XSS vulnerabilities. It hosts the payload for you. It executes it. It returns the payload when it's executed, and it serves back the response to you with the notification channel. In the tool, I was using Slack. You can customize it to use whatever notification channel you would like to use. It was a cool tool. You can literally deploy a blind XSS app and not worrying about it for the next year in like 2-3 minutes. And for me, as example, I deployed my Xless instance. The last update was like 6 months ago. I don't recall I have done any maintenance about it for it. Demos, I think I have images and screenshots. Hopefully it will be next. So the first use case was Nmap. It was when Zeet supported Docker. It was so, and RobNop used like built and Docker container that have Nmap that he installed Nmap, and then he wrote a quick Node.js interface or middleware app that can take the user input and then execute it in shell, calling nmap and then returning the response. You can see here he just curls the URL that he had, and the return was the response for the open ports. The entire port scanning was not done by his IP address. It was done by the serverless application, serverless provider here, by now.sh. Also, you can use serverless as your notification channel. We all have this scenario where we are conducting a phishing engagement or phishing exercise, and we would like to get the credentials sent back to us. And then we have to set up our servers and having the notification and testing the notification channel and making sure that it's working correctly. But with serverless, you can automate this quite quickly. Here, you can have this example. I have a notification channel app that I wrote. This is a very small one. And whenever like a user triggers it, you can see that it sends me back the IP address that sends it along with the post data that was sent with it. It's a quick one, quite helpful. I don't have to worry about the maintenance. Phishing, the best part about serverless for, in my opinion. This example, I am hosting a phishing page. Of course, it says phishing, but you can just imagine it as an evil, fancy phishing page. And the phishing page that is hosted here is not done by. It did not take a lot of time for me. I just literally click now, deploy, and the phishing page is up with a new URL. Yes, you can say, Mazin, if this is not fancy, you have the URL, you can just block all the now and see the instances from the domains, and you are secure. But that doesn't, it's not the case, because in serverless you can customize it into having it returned via different domain name. I will show you next. Before after this one. So when someone here, this slide, enters their username and password, you can have them send the page, the responses or the credentials to your notification channel. In this case, it was Slack. And for me, I don't have to keep a database. I don't have to have anything. It's fully stateless setup. And malware dropping. The iCar file that I have here is hosted in serverless in Zeet. Zeet also can be utilized as a CDN, where you can host your images and your files, of course, your malware in this case. And every time it generates a new URL, and the fact that it's using a cloud provider, it's not something that you can block, because the IPs are dynamic. You cannot differentiate between normal IP addresses and malicious one, if you can say. And here you can see that I'm hosting it in Mazin.xyz, and this is the beauty of our current state of cloud providers. You can do a lot of modifications and customizations at that. And yeah, so you can host your malware with a different domain name, and the setup for me to have this is like, I don't know, 5 minutes. It's not about the novelty of having this being set up. The cool part about this is to have it set up in 5 minutes or 3 minutes. This is what I like in serverless and the current providers. Also, another use case here would be using serverless for cross-site scripting exploitation. Before serverless, we used to have something like this. We test you are like a web page with script alert script and alert one script, and if it shows a pop-up, then hey, this is a cross-site scripting. But it's not that advanced. It's not. We are like in 2020. This is not. This should not be the way to test that. Because one reason is, let's say that you are searching, you are testing, let's say a search input, and it's not vulnerable to cross-site scripting. Then you just pass it and mark it uh, as secure in this case. But what if this search functionality have a backend admin panel that is showing all the search queries that was done by customers in this case, and this functionality is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. In this case, it would show an alert with like this, but me as a penetration tester or a security tester, I wouldn't be able to find out whether this is vulnerable to cross-site scripting or not, because I don't know. I don't have the metrics or the triggers to know that. So people came along and developed something like this. This one is by I Am Mandatory. And this platform, you can use generated cross-site scripting payloads with different URLs, and you can send it to the website, and whenever it triggers, you receive an email with all of the details that was collected from that particular user agent or session. It was good, but it's it's a hosted service, and if you would like to have this in an environment that you can fully control, this will not be the best option. Although XSS Hunter have their own version of self-hosted application that you can host it on your server, but come on, it's a lot of work. For me, as someone who would like to have this deployed, I would prefer something that is quicker. And I developed. So this is the report that is that you can receive in email whenever there is an XSS payload that is fired with the URL, with the IP address, and all of the related information. And this example that I developed here with XSS, you just provide this URL as an input, and you get a full report like this with all of the data that was collected in Slack, or you can customize it into your own notification channel. Also, another use case would be Canary Tokens. It's not the same one, same Canary Tokens by Harun Mir and Thanks Technology. It's majorly the same concept. You can generate an out-of-band Canary URLs or out-of-band callback URLs. You can supply them to whatever you want, and then whenever it triggers or sends an HTTP request, you can have them sent back to your notification channel. And it's something that you host by yourself. You don't have to worry about all of the other things in terms of maintenance and etc. So conclusion for today and for this talk, serverless is awesome. We can clearly see how you can automate a lot of cool things in minutes. And there are a lot of potential usages here, and the overhead for maintenance is zero. And having a controlled server in your network that manages everything is a must for good operational security. In the end, if you are doing penetration testing for an entity that is quite sensitive and you don't want to have the credentials that are being sent to be sent to Slack, your Slack workspace, you might need to have a control server. But from a research perspective into the usages of serverless, you can clearly see that the usages for serverless is quite cool. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. We can start with the questions.
Thank you, Mazin. Yeah, let's see. Do you guys have any question in the chat? While we're waiting for some questions, actually, regarding serverless, which languages can be used to do serverless application? I know you can use .NET and Node.js. Is there like new languages you can use to make a serverless application now? Or?
Yeah, so it depends on the provider. So Z supports, before it used in V1, supports Docker. So you can literally deploy whatever image that you have in mind and it would work. You don't have to worry about the language. But now it's limited to the language they support. The languages they support are, Node.js, Python, Golang, I think .NET, I'm not sure about it. And
which cloud provider was that?
Yeah, Z.
Okay.
Yeah, and AWS supports Python, Node.js, and Golang. And Azure supports a number of them. I haven't used Azure before, Azure
Okay.
Functions.
Yeah, I think they have Python, but I think it's in beta. I don't know if they rolled it out yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was mainly like .NET C Sharp, I think, because they have like the web app and the Azure functions. But for Azure functions, I think you can only do Node.js and .NET. But I think at some point they were working on Python, so I don't know if it has been released yet or not.
I didn't know that. I thought because Python and Node.js are almost like the de facto for serverless. Like since AWS started, I think it was the first company, one of the first companies that started serverless. Python and Node.js were the first languages, but I didn't know that Azure did not support it yet.
Yeah, that would make sense. Someone in the chat is asking if one can create Canary tokens on Zaid for free.
Yeah. So that's the cool thing about Zeet. It's fully free to. One thing that is in Zeet and is not on in Azure or AWS and GCP, that you don't have to provide your credit card details. You just create your account. You have the setup on your laptop, and you can deploy it for free without all of the hassle. And for the Canary tokens, you can just say git clone xless, the application that I have, and then now deploy, and you will get a URL, and you can use it for Canary tokens, and it's for free, of course.
And for if you want to do Canary tokens, I think you can also go on canarytokens.org, where you can create it for free.
Yeah, I would totally use the one by things, not the one by serverless. That one, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to deploy like anything. Which is like pretty, it's very convenient.
Yeah.
I've been using it a lot.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, but the way to customize a notification
channel.
Of course. Yeah, that's probably the cool thing about that.
Another question is, or is it competitive in terms of pricing? Let's say Lambda versus ECS.
So Lambda and so Zeet is free until you reach some sort of a limit, and it's quite a high limit. Lambda, AWS Lambda, I think you can have almost 1 million requests per month for free in the free tier. When you create your account for the next 12 months, from creating the account, you have like the free tier, and it allows you to have 1 million requests per month. And after that, you are charged per execution, per request, and per execution time. So if the request is processed in a couple milliseconds, it will only charge a lot. You can easily have this in like $2 a month, unless you are hosting a heavy web application or execution for that part. So it's quite competitive comparing to have that. And for me, I happen to deploy a number of servers and I forget about them. And of course, I will be charged every month per allocating that server. But in Lambda and serverless, Lambda, Zeet, and all this, I'm only charged by execution. So if I have a server, like I have an application, I forget about it for 6 months, I wouldn't be charged unless I'm using it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think most of cloud providers have a quota before you get charged for serverless, right? Because they're trying to get people to use it. So
Yeah. But AWS is quite like they have you hooked onto their platform, and once you are hooked, they charge you badly on that.
Yeah, that would make sense. Someone replied in the chat. So for Azure Functions, they support C Sharp, JavaScript, F Sharp, Java, and Python. So I guess Python is not
Oh wow!
in beta anymore. That's
Oh
pretty cool.
wow!
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
that's quite good. Cool. Do you guys have any more questions? I mean, I guess by the time they get, if we have any more questions, it's gonna be like 30 seconds delay. So, but yeah, let's. Okay, I guess that's it. Anything you want to add?
I'm perfect from my side.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah. So thank you, everyone.
Well, thanks for you and for your presentation. So Mazin presentation is going to be available on GitHub after. And yeah, so let's have a short intermission and we'll continue with our next speaker, who is going to be Zoxin, to speak about like source code recovery.